Your Excellency, Mr. Arkom Termpitasaya Pasit, Minister of Finance, Mr. Poramet Nagampichet, Pattaya City Mayor, Father Sukram Tama Singh, Vice President of the Redemptorist Foundation for People with Disabilities here in Pattaya, our hosts, Dr. Sopuntum Mongkol Sawat, Secretary General, Chairperson of Workability Asia, Mr. Andrew Ramsey, the President of Workability Asia, and Mr. Katsunori Fuji, Japan Director and Advisor, Workability Asia. It's a great pleasure for me to join you all here today, here in Pattaya, and to take part in this very, very important event. We've already heard today in the opening remarks that have been made so far, how useful it is, how important it is for us to be together, to discuss collectively, to share ideas and experiences, particularly in these challenging times post-COVID and with a number of other challenges that we are facing globally, regionally, and of course here in Thailand. In Asia Pacific, as I think was just mentioned, 15% of the population are living with disability. 15. Sipha, that's a lot of people that are living with disability. And of those, about 472 million are of working age, which means they could or should be working. That's a huge number of people. Available information indicates that these people are far less likely to be in work and even more less likely to be experiencing quality or decent work, as we call it in the ILO. And we know, as has been mentioned already, that the COVID-19 pandemic has hit people with disabilities particularly hardest, and particularly hard in terms of their employment prospects. And this reflects their already precarious position in labour markets. People with disabilities are less likely to participate in the labour force than people without disabilities. And when they do participate, they experience higher rates of unemployment, and they are also more likely than the general population to be self-employed and working in informal jobs. And these, as we know, are jobs that generally lack security and benefits and are often done under somewhat difficult or less desirable conditions of work. In addition, in the majority of countries with available data, persons with disability tend to earn less per month than those without. And obviously, this has direct implications for their purchasing power and in general for their living standards. Barriers preventing persons with disabilities from entering, remaining, and advancing in the workforce include, unfortunately, discriminatory laws and policies. Sometimes environments are less accessible than they could or should be. Transportation challenges often face disabled people, and information and communication technology environments are sometimes not conducive to their engagement in the workforce. And importantly, and we have to always remember this, there are stereotypes and negative attitudes and mistaken assumptions about persons with disabilities, including their capacity to work, which limit their ability to engage properly in the workforce. This implies that people with disabilities face greater difficulties in accessing formal jobs, which generally provide more secure and stable incomes. Adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in December 2006, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities enshrines the right of persons with disabilities to work on an equal basis with others. and noting that this includes the right to the opportunity to gain a living by work freely chosen or accepted in a labour market and in a work environment that is open, inclusive, and accessible to persons with disabilities. The Convention, as I'm sure many of you know, explicitly prohibits all forms of employment discrimination. It calls for more accommodating work environments and requires state parties to promote access to vocational training and self-employment opportunities for people with disabilities. In addition to this United Nations instrument, as was mentioned at the introduction, I am from the International Labour Organization, and I am the country director for Thailand, Cambodia, and Laos EDR. And the International Labour Organization has been around now for over 100 years, and it is the specialized agency of the United Nations system concerned with the world of work. And the International Labour Organization promotes, upholds, and encourages member states, and virtually all of the member states of the United Nations are member states of the ILO. It encourages them to implement international labour standards. And there are two specific international labour standards that specifically promote the inclusion of persons with disability. And both of these have been ratified by Thailand. And these are the International Labour Standard on Discrimination in Employment and Occupation, which is Convention number 111, and the Vocational Rehabilitation and Employment Disabled Persons Convention number 159. In addition to the protection of rights and non-discrimination of workers with disabilities, strong labour market statistics disaggregated by disability status are essential. Through its technical support to countries, the International Labour Organization is promoting the inclusion of what is called the Washington Group on Disability Statistics methodology in the application of labour force surveys, and has developed a dedicated module on persons with disabilities to be used in labour force surveys. And this is very important because obviously knowledge and information, it creates influence, it gives us a basis on which to influence policy and argue our case. On the promotion of social protection, we promote the inclusion of persons with disabilities. But additionally to that, we also underscore the importance to cover the extra costs of living with disability and to offer incentives to persons with disabilities to enter and remain in the labour force. On the demand side, the ILO has established something called the Global Business and Disability Network. This is a unique worldwide network of companies, national employers organizations, business networks, disabled persons organizations, and NGOs who work in collaboration to promote disability inclusion at work. The Global Business and Disability Network aims to create a global that is respect. The network also works to increase awareness about the positive relationship between disability, inclusion, and business success. This network also ties in well with other actions, and at the national level, it can be complemented by government policies that mandate or encourage companies to include people with disabilities among their teams and also in their procurement policies. Over the last few years, the effort of this network has shifted to establishing national networks, making a strong connection at the country level. And this global network now includes 31 national business and disability networks, and 7 of these are in Asia and the Pacific region, including in the Philippines and India, who are represented physically today, I believe, and also in China, in Bangladesh, Indonesia, and in also New Zealand and Australia. And we are currently exploring the establishment of a national business and with our constituent, ECOT, the Employers Confederation of Thailand. Additionally, I would like to share a few examples of our support to the inclusion of young persons with disability in Thailand, specifically under a project called the Young Future Makers Thailand project, which is supported by the Standard Chartered Foundation of the bank, Standard Chartered, and is part of their broader global initiative called Future Makers. This takes an integrated approach in supporting disadvantaged young women and young persons with disabilities in the labour market through the provision of demand-led technical skills training, employability training, career guidance, and employment services. Phase 1 in Bangkok, and also in Rayong, in Ayutthaya, and in Nakhon Ratchasima, benefited from technical skills and employability training, including 160 young persons with disabilities. The selected skills courses focused on digital training and language skills, which are skills that have been highlighted by employers as critical for the labour market. In addition, skills on entrepreneurship development have also been imparted. The ILO worked with the Suranari University of Technology to develop an online module of what's called the Data Analytics and Visualization for Manufacturing course to expand the course's accessibility. And this course is a DSD certified course and aims to upskill workers and youth in technical areas such as data collection, data analysis, concepts and methods, and data presentation. The online course was piloted with over 50 young persons with hearing impairments in Nakhon Ratchasima. The project also worked with the Social Innovation Foundation to reach 18 organizations, including 7 businesses, and focused on raising awareness on inclusive workplaces, identifying good practices, improving employers' perceptions of the abilities and potential of persons with disabilities, and supporting participating enterprises in identifying potential improvements for inclusive workplaces for women and men. In addition, the project also collaborated with the Department of Employment of the Ministry of Labour to conduct a joint online job fair that was attended by 46 employers and over 2,000 job seekers, including youth from Rayong. The project's second phase will begin next month, and we look forward to continuing our work with partners for the inclusion of persons with disabilities. As I mentioned at the beginning, the ILO is now over 100 years old. It celebrated its centenary in 2019. Thailand was in fact one of the founding members of the international organization way back in 1919. And in the 100-year anniversary, the organization met with a huge conference in Geneva, Switzerland, where the headquarters are. And a conclusion of that meeting was something called the ILO Centenary Declaration for the Future of Work. And this is a very important declaration which guides all of our work. And most importantly, this declaration recognizes the importance of ensuring equal opportunities and treatment in the world of work for persons with disabilities. In this regard, the ILO stands ready to continue its work with all partners to make the right to decent work a reality for persons with disability. With this, I thank you for your attention and wish you all an excellent few days at this meeting. Thank you.